Hi. So let's continue with the next part. So in this part, we are going to add the controller code and the DB utility code that will add the given employee detail into the database. So let's open the employee controller. So when the user press the button add, it goes to this employee controller. And in the employee controller, if you remember in the do get method, we call the method list employee that will list all the employees in the database. But now user will able to reach this employee controller in different ways. One is when they press the back to employee list, the employee controller is called. And when they press the add button in the registration, the employee list is called. So the employee controller, I want to know whether the user sent a request to add an employee or list the employee. So how we can know that what kind of request they are going to give. So to do this, I'm going to do some minor changes in the view, in the add employee form. In the add employee form, before this controls, so if you remember, we have the text control. So this is not an email, this should be the name. So we have an input text, this will return the name, and we have an email which will return the email, and we have a option green card and option green card, two options whether he has a green card or no green card, and we need to set some value for this. So if he has the green card, the value it's going to return is 1. If he doesn't have a green card, the value that is going to return is 0. Now I'm going to create one hidden input that will tell the user this is a form that's sent by the add employee registration form. So let's create a new input, but this time I'm going to call the type as hidden. So when you say the type is hidden, it's not going to be visible to the user. And name of this the input is command. I'm going to call this as command, and the value that is going to pass for this is add. So when the user submit the registration button, it will send a name, email, and option green card. It can be either 1 or 0. And with these three input, it also send another input which is a command add, but it will not be shown to the user. Yes. Now we can use this to check in the controller whether the request comes from the command add or to list the employees. So in the try block, first I'm going to create a string so I'm going to use the get parameter and read the parameter command, which is the name of the input, the hidden field. So if you remember, if the user press the add form, then we will have a command. If they press the back button, there is no command, it will be empty, null. So I'll check whether if the command is equal to null. If it is null, then we'll change the command to list. Otherwise, if it is not null, the command will be add. So here I can, based on the command, I can call different methods. So I'm going to use a switch here, switch based on the command, So we have two cases so far. One is add. So if the user gives a add command, then I'm going to call a method add employee with the request object and the response object. Break. If case is list, then we just call this method list employee and we'll have a break. And for default, if the command doesn't have odd a list, by default it will call the list. So we have root the different methods, calling the different method based on the given command. And if you notice, we have a list employee already implemented, but add employee is not there, so we get this error. So let's ask the Eclipse to create the method. So this creates a add employee method. So in the add employee method, what we are going to do is we are going to read the data from our form and pass it to the DAO to add the employee to the database. So we have three form parameters. The first parameter is the name. The second parameter would be the email, and the last parameter is the green card. The request dot parameter always send as a string. So if you remember, go back to this. I'm giving three: name, email, and option green card. So these are the three parameters that send back. But if you see, this request get parameter always send a string. I cannot convert it to integer. If you remember our database, in our employee data, this is integer. So I need to convert it to integer. So we can use integer dot parse int and pass this whole thing inside the. So this will convert the string to integer. So we have read all the three parameters. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to create a employee object with these three parameters. But if you remember, go back to the employee class, we have a constructor which has 1 2 3 4 parameters, but in this case I want only 3 parameters instead of 4 parameters. So let's create a new constructor. So this is in the employee class. So in employee class I'm going to create a generate the constructor, but now only with these three fields. I remove the ID, so it has only name, email, and green card. Now I can use this to create the object with name, email, and green card. So this will create an employee object, and now I can call the employee DAO dot. And if you remember, in the employee DAO we have only one method, that is get employees. So we are also going to add a new method, add employee, and I will pass the employee object to this method. And after we add the employee, we are going to call the list employee So after it add, I will display all the employees with the new employee details. So in the add employee, it reads the command. If the command is null, I change to null. Sorry, if the command is null, the command is list. So by default, it's going to list all the employees. So I switch based on the command. If the command is add, so if the user command is add, then I'm going to call the method add employee. If it is list, I'm going to call the method list employee. And in the add employee, we read all the form parameters and create a object, and we call the method add employee, which is in the employee DAO. But if you remember, we don't have a in the DB we have only one method, get employees. So we need to create a method add emp. So the easier way is you can ask the Eclipse to create the method for you. So this created the method for you. Now let's say this. And if you remember, this list gives me an error because it needs to throw the exception. So let's throw the exception. Say this. So all the errors has been fixed. Now the next thing we want to do is we need to write the code for employee DB that will add the details that sent from the controller into the database. So here we'll do a few things. We'll get the connection, then create a SQL statement that will insert the data to the database and execute it, and once we finish it, we will close the connection. So first we'll start with adding some JDBC objects. So same like what we did in the previous, we want to create a connection. After that, we want to create a statement, but this time it's not a query statement, it's going to be an insert statement. So we will create a prepared statement. Now let's first get the DB connection. So connection equal to data source dot get connection. So whenever we have a get connection, it need to be put inside the try catch. So we have the connection established. The next one will create a SQL statement. So we'll write the statement to insert into the employee table. The fields that I'm going to give is name, email, and green card. These are the three columns that I'm going to insert, and I'm going to give values. So I want to set the values later. So now I just put a comma. I put the comma here. So this is my insert statement. Now we can create the prepare statement. So my statement will be equal to connection dot prepare statement of SQL. So this will create a statement, and we'll set the parameters. So the first parameter is a string. So the first argument is the first parameter, and the value for the string is the name of the employee, the employee dot get name. So we do the next statement, set the string, second parameter is the employees get email, and the last one is my statement dot set int. For the third parameter, it's going to be the employees get green card. So we set the parameters, so 1, 2 and 3 is replaced with the name, email and green card. After that we can execute our statement. So my statement dot execute. So instead of execute query, we call the execute method. So once it's done, we can close our statement and we can close our connection. So that's what we are doing in our DB2. We have create the connections and we write the SQL statement, we prepare the statement and we set all the parameters and finally execute the statement and close the connections. So now let's try to execute and see the output. So let's run the controller. So we have this add employee. I want to add a new employee name. Let's call them as ID at code.com, and ID does not have a green card. Register. Yes, you see it has been added to our list. Let me add another one. Amal at code.com, and Amal has a green card, so register. Yes, Amal has been added and you can see the value of the green card becomes 1. This 11, 12 is because I was testing previously with few values, so it has been auto incremented to 11 and 12. Let's go back and check our database. We refresh our database and see this data has been included in our database. So we have successfully done. There was one small mistake that you need to correct. In the U2, it should be first parameter, second parameter and third parameter. See you next tutorial. I'm going to show you how to do the